I was recently talking to a client who was struggling in her marriage, and we talked about spiritual strongholds and how Satan was really holding her husband captive. He loved her, but as a little boy, he had really been abused, and because of the abuse, he was harsh to her. And when he lashed out, like all of us with her flesh, she wanted to lash back, and she did many times. Not that it's good, not that it's acceptable, but that's what happened. And I know in my own marriage, the same things happened. My husband would say something harsh, I'd say something harsh back, screw you too, you're a jerk. And we would say things that we didn't mean, but the more someone would say it, the less you wanted to be kind to that person, the less I wanted to love that person. There were times in my marriage, just like this woman that I'm talking about, and just like actually many I talked to, I was like, I didn't want to look at my husband. I was disgusted. And when people talk to me, I kind of go there and they're like, yeah, you're feeling it. It's like you just want to vomit, or the idea of making love to your spouse or talking to him. And sometimes we'll get an edge when we are dealing with them because we're like, you're the one that needs to apologize. I shouldn't have to. So what I was trying to tell this woman to do is something that I myself intellectually told myself I had to do decades ago. I remember when my husband and I were really struggling and I just wanted out. And because of it, I had no desire to be with him, to touch him, to talk to him, to look at him, as maybe was true for him of me. And what I said to this woman was something that was very powerful to me. But what's funny is it's so simple, is that I said to myself, to this woman, what response from me would make Jesus happy? What response would make Jesus sad? Now I'm going to apologize straight up front first, because sometimes just making Jesus happy wasn't enough motivation for me. I'd be like, well, I know it would make Jesus happy, but he also wouldn't be happy because my husband's a jerk, or because... But then I think about the converse, the opposite. What would Satan think? And the Lord gave me this very, very simple analogy. And I used this with the woman the other day. And it's exactly what I used for myself intellectually. And it was this. Christine, Sarah, Sally, John, if you decide to treat your husband cold or continue to make harsh remarks or just the way that your flesh wants you to respond, what do you think Jesus' face would look like? What do you think Satan's face would look like? And I use a simple smiley face technique. Said one of them is frowning and one is smiling. Now clearly when we're talking Jesus and Satan, if one is smiling, the other is not. And so what I said to this client the other day, the same as I said to myself years ago, was, okay, Christine, if you decide to say that word or to be callous or to do that thing towards your spouse, even if it's subtle, even if it's just a simple, I'm not saying sorry, let's go with that. I'm not saying sorry. He's the one that offended me. She's the one that has to say sorry. They're the one that did A, B, and C. Regardless, let's just say the person you're talking about is 90% at fault and you're only 10% at fault. Let's go with that, because there are times where I'm only 10% at fault and he or she is 90% at fault. But I say, if you say to yourself, I'm not saying sorry until he says sorry, what would Jesus' face do? Would Jesus smile? Or would Jesus frown? I would say, if I say, I'm not saying sorry because he didn't say sorry, this would be Jesus' face. And as I said 2 minutes ago, if that's not enough to encourage me, then I thought about this. This would be Satan's face. If I don't do it, or if I do a thing and it makes Satan smile, that makes me want to throw up, because I hate Satan. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, because I know God doesn't hate anyone. But I do not want to please Satan. And so what it does, and what it did for this woman the other day, is just, it makes you go against. This is a struggle between the flesh and the spirit. Your flesh and your spirit. If the thing you want to do makes Jesus frown and Satan smile, do the opposite. Because when I think about, okay, I didn't want to touch my husband this particular time. I didn't want to be near him. I didn't want to hug him or kiss him. It just had been a pattern in our house. Like, we both were like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah, we eat supper. We do whatever. It wasn't harsh. It wasn't, but it was just cold. And the Holy Spirit kept telling me, you need to break that. This woman I was dealing with, the same thing. Same thing. And I said to her, Sarah, you want to run from your husband? You want to make him, you just want to ignore him. You want nothing to do with him. You don't want to touch him. But she had discussed just walking up to him. I had discussed giving him a hug. And it's funny because if you're listening right now and the thought of that, hugging your spouse or touching, makes your skin crawl, this is the analogy you need. And I said, what if you just walked up to him, no words, and just walked up to him and hugged him. Just put your arms around him, regardless of what his or her response would be, which would be Jesus' face. And she knew, and you knew, and I knew that Jesus would smile. Because in that example, you defeated Satan. Your spirit was stronger than your flesh. And Satan hates that because Satan's all about the flesh. And when she walked up to her husband and hugged him, when I walked up to my husband 10 years ago and I did what my flesh did not want to do, Jesus smiled, but Satan was upset. And that back then was all that I needed. It's like, I never want to make Satan smile. This is an analogy I want you to keep in your head. So simple. So simple. It's not about your offender. It is not about what they're doing to you, what they've said to you. It doesn't matter if your spouse, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter. If your spouse just says the worst things to you, and he or she doesn't deserve love. Let's be honest, none of us deserves love. I agree with you. That spouse probably doesn't deserve your love. But if you know that in this battle of spiritual warfare, that your action will either cause Jesus to frown or Jesus to smile, I think you know now which one you want to do. I hope that it has a response for you. It's like, I cannot stand the idea of making Satan smile. Can't do it. Because I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, he is here. I just listened to a video recently. A priest was giving a homily, and he was reading the words of Satan from a recent exorcism. And in that exorcism, Satan was saying that every single human has at least one demon assigned to him. They are hierarchical. You have a demon that has been following you since the day you were born, probably before when your mother was pregnant with you. And that demon will never leave you till the day you die and God tells him go, till you've been judged. You also have an angel that's been assigned to you as well. Some people have been assigned to priests, for instance. They are fighting. That demon is fighting for your soul. And you will win or lose this battle incrementally. You must begin by training your flesh. Make your spirit stronger and your flesh weak. Do that which you do not want to do. If you know it's going to please your flesh, it will disappoint your spirit. If it will please your flesh, it'll please Satan. If it'll please your flesh, it'll make God sad. Child's play right here. But if this doesn't help you, I don't know what will. I know it will help you. So that's my lesson for today. It may sound simple. It's not meant to sound like a child's game. It is very, 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 very serious. The next time you fight with a spouse or a friend or a family member, you're estranged, or you want to do anything and you're kind of on the fence about whether you should or shouldn't, want you to think about that. Think about these smiley faces. Please God, and you'll anger Satan. Please Satan, and you'll sadden God. Which one do you want to choose? Who do you want to please?